All right, so welcome back into our live stream today. We're trying to do these a little bit more often if you guys can't tell. The idea behind these is we're really ramping up our technical analysis on the crypto power index, and what that means is it results in a lot of new fresh data that we want to bring to you guys, our audience, of course, and we're going to get into that today. Dive deep. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back to TechPath. Of course, we're talking Solana. There's a lot of things, of course, that are happening with Solana and the ecosystem. If you think about just how big this ecosystem is, it is a monster. And I think there's some interesting things just on the heels of their conference that we definitely want to jump into. But before we get going, a little housekeeping here. We definitely want to thank our sponsors, iTrust Capital. They support the channel and help us bring this kind of data to you guys absolutely free of charge. That's the biggest advantage. If you are interested in getting into an IRA, a crypto IRA, this is the house to do it. We vet a lot of our partners for the channel here, and we really do dive in a little deeper on these. And one thing that they've done here recently that's big news for them is there's no more monthly fees. So they were charging, I think, $30 a month for getting into a crypto IRA. That's absolutely free now. You just pay a 1% trade fee, and that's essentially the cost of your IRA. So if you're prepping for taxes at the year end, I'm not a tax advisor, but I know enough about what the way I would do it is I'm putting in and building as many of these IRAs as I can, whether if you've got a trust that you're doing something maybe for a child or even for your own retirement itself. Remember that you're not gaining taxes as your crypto is in there earning money. So it's kind of a set it and forget it. But anyway, it's very easy to do, big tax advantages, obviously. Taxes or trades are tax-free in an IRA. Also, low cost. This is a very simple thing. It's 1% trade fee on gold. It's $50 over the spot on a per ounce. This is one of those rare platforms where you can trade not only crypto but also precious metals. Liquidity, trade 24 hours a day, so it's very much like any indexed and platform that you might be out there using. And these are some of the main projects that they, of course, have available. All the big caps for you. So you've got Cardano, Chainlink, Polkadot, Ethereum, and Bitcoin in there. They do have a great asset wallet providers, including Coinbase Custody, which is a big advantage, I think, when they brought that on in terms of just custody of your tokens and your Bitcoin and or whatever you're trading in. Big advantage there. And then, of course, Curve for cold storage, eliminates single points of failure and all those kind of things that you have to worry about when you are doing something like this. So iTrust Capital, I want to thank them so much for, again, stopping in and hanging out on the show today. But the best of all, hey man, you get $100 of Bitcoin when you sign up. Make sure and use our link below and you're in. Pretty simple. Let's get into Solana, the ecosystem. So Solana, the ecosystem itself has been absolutely exploding. If you looked and really understood what was going on at the recent Solana conference in Lisbon, the idea that I thought was very interesting, I've listened to several people who have been there and I've talked to a few guys that have actually attended the conference. One thing that they pointed out that I thought was very interesting to me was that this conference versus some of the past conferences that we've seen, especially in these altcoin spaces, was a lot less geeky and much more forward thinking, even though developers was like the number one thing to try to do. And this was the big difference for what they were trying to do with that conference. So I think with that being the case, one is I won't say it makes it more approachable, but it definitely helps traditional, either big institutional investors, super passionate investors, or even in general, I think analysts understand what Solana is trying to do from an overall aspect for sure. So anyway, let's get into where we're going here. Yeah, I think we're all good there. Let's go over to the Solana ecosystem just to kind of just quickly run in. If you have not had a chance to go just check out Solana based on the number of projects, this is a great tool within their own website that you can just drop in and check out new projects. It'll quickly give you all the newest ones. There's the NFTs. You can kind of see it repaint. There's the DeFi projects right there. Exchanges, tools, and even dexes. So it's a pretty great tool. If you haven't looked at them, then of course you can kind of categorize over here on the side. But this just shows you how big this ecosystem is becoming. And their co-founder and at the conference, he was talking a lot about what was happening with the developer evolution. And one of the things he said was they were trying to get, now get this, trying to get to 1 million developers. If Solana, as I said, and I've said this before on another video, if Solana gets to 1 million developers, I mean, that will become one of the most robust ecosystems, even more so, I would say, than Ethereum. And that's saying a lot. Now, getting to 1 million developers, I think they have 1,700 developers currently. That's the biggest challenge that a lot of these platforms face, is the fact that they've got so many great projects, but at the same time, they don't necessarily have the queue of developers to be able to jump into these. Now, Solana, being the way that it's developed, is it really kind of opens up in terms of the opportunity for maybe Web 2.0 or full stack developers that are coming from Web 2.0 to jump into Solana. So that in itself, I think, is a big advantage for Solana to really kind of go in that direction. The other chain that I would say is close is AVAX or Avalanche. Again, kind of same kind of scenario, in the sense that they have more of a trajectory plan of how to get full stack developers from Web 2.0, because we do have millions of developers in that area. And if we see an easy on-ramp or a transition plan, whether it's AVAX, Solana, Polygon, you name it, Polkadot, moving those developers over into Web 3.0 is going to be super, super critical. So just to jump to some of the projects, I want to go to one of them that is in the top 20 here, and that's a project called Tulip. And this is, of course, Solana's yield aggregation homestead. It's an interesting project in the sense that we continue to see this kind of innovation happening around Solana's ecosystem, but it's got full-on lending. This has a lot of similarities to, I don't know if, not because of, just because of the lending aspect, it almost has a similarity to Curve or something of that nature when you look into DeFi, but leverage farming, which you can go in and farm Tulip and USDC. You're going to see where they're paying out, number of unique positions currently, and obviously a big opportunity here. I think if you are looking at these kinds of supported protocols, this is interesting because it's got Raydium, Saber, and Orca all plugged into it. And we're going to talk about a few of these projects because this is very interesting. The other thing is how Tulip is integrating. This is their latest news, and this is Tulip integrating with Chainlink. And Chainlink, if you know it, is really a core architecture for blockchain, and this is a big news for Tulip. But it's a yield aggregation platform built on Solana. Now it's going to have a leverage yield farming platform, basically connected to Chainlink. We chose Chainlink as our go-to Oracle solution because of its no-compromise approach to security and reliability. And then I think is one of the key advantages with Chainlink is just the security and the reliability that this particular platform has. The other thing, additionally, Chainlink price feeds on Solana can publish Oracle's updates on chain at sub-second frequencies, another requirement in terms of speed, and then full market coverage to further ensure the price data is real time, because that's another factor that you're going to have in these kinds of markets like Tulip, that you need that real-time speed, just because in some cases, depending on how much you're trading or how much you're yielding, that can have a big factor on what your profitability is. So very cool. Another thing we use when we are tracking these tools down is we use a tool called Tokenmetrics. This is a good example of Tokenmetrics. So I pulled up Tulip protocol right here. There are some things I use Tokenmetrics for. Full disclosure, they are a sponsor of the channel. But I use this on a day in, day out basis. And the main thing that we look for with Tokenmetrics is I want to use this as a secondary validation tool to our own CPI, which is the Crypto Power Index. And what I look at is where their bullish and their bearish indicators are. And typically they're pretty much right on. I'm just going to pull this back out here. They pulled a bullish indicator after we saw even a little bit of a dip right here. This was the end of October. And then, of course, we saw the move up right here. And then the current situation we're in right now with Tulip is much of what we've seen with, in general, on Bitcoin and just the market overall taking about a 10% hit. And just to talk on that for a minute, guys, is that because a lot of people have been tweeting me and hitting me up on my DMs, what's happening in the market? Are we seeing, is this the top? based on the sentiment data that we continue to haul in across the variety of different platforms, this is definitely just a blip of where this is going. And I think we are nearing a very interesting time right now in how Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to react. So be on the lookout. We are going to do a Bitcoin update this week live, and we'll do a full chart of that with our sentiment tools, our amplification tools. Take a look at where this might be charting out to. We have our first credential that we were able to pull on Bitcoin that was a deep enough cut into the price to really get a good data set, and we're going to do that for you. So definitely stay tuned. But back to what I'm using this tool for is really understanding not only the technical analysis, the other things I will do on this is take a look at the general ratings. And this gives me kind of an overall indicator on something that might be either a trading signal that's bullish or bearish. And I can go in here and sort by different market caps. I think if you guys probably caught one of our tricks of the trade that we use Tokenmetrics for, is being able to sort market caps on low caps, meaning under $100 million. That's one of the ways that we use Tokenmetrics to identify different projects. And the projects you might identify are things like this right here, Raydium. Raydium, again, another swapping platform, but specifically for Solana. And of course, you want to be able to plug this in via your Phantom app. So in a good example of the use case of Raydium, for those of you who have maybe not done a Solana swap yet, is you want to get your Phantom wallet, load it up with some Solana, so it's just an address transfer, and then Raydium is going to be the swap location that you're going to be able to get to things like, say, a Star Atlas or something of that nature. That's the way that you would utilize Raydium, and I think Raydium, much like a pancake swap for BNB, is going to become a home base for what's going to happen in the Solana ecosystem. So lots of cool stuff there. The other project that also scored very highly was Solend. And Solend is another one. It's an autonomous interest rate machine for lending on Solana. And I like these because this reminds me a lot of the Nexo products and the Celsius products in the sense of being able to really have a lending platform that is designed to do just that, lending, good yields, etc. And Solend has a very interesting aspect. Earn interest in deposits, borrow assets on the fastest, lowest fees, and most scalable. I would like to compare that to maybe what's happening over on Nexo and over on Celsius, because I think that might be interesting to see really where they are. Let's take a look at some of the things, what they've got going. You can see kind of the supply APY right there. Total borrowed right now on Solana. Big number here, 829 million. And of course, there's the borrow APY right at 0.33%. That's going to be some amazing gains. USDC, 19% right now on a 3x on supply APY. And then you've got USDT, Tether, and then all the way down into ETH and Bitcoin, of course. So again, this goes back to the strengths inside the Solana ecosystem. Let me zoom up on that so you guys can kind of see it a little bit better, just in case you didn't get that and you do want to grab a screenshot of this if you weren't, just quickly on your phone, if you're watching this on your mobile. But this is one of those projects that I feel like it continues to really show the power of what Solana's ecosystem is doing and just the amount of innovation that's coming into the space. Big thing. So we're going to get into the index a little bit. Before we do, let's take a look at the chart and kind of see where we are. And we're going to pull a data set on this. And just to show you, the last pull we had was right here on November 10th. That was sentiment. And it had fallen a little bit, which did indicate to us amplification had underperformed. So it did indicate to us that we were going to see a little bit of a sideways chop. We did have this little bubble right here that was able to kind of identify we might see some action here, and sure enough, we did see this. Whether we recover right here on this lower level is what I'm really interested in, and that's going to bring Solana maybe back down here into the 237 point around the 20th of November, and the potential for Solana to maybe get back into the 270 to 250 range, 249 range before the end of the month is there. The key, I think, will be attached to how Bitcoin and Ethereum start to really move the market, because we will start to see some action and price action. I think mainly because Solana at 223 is a pretty good buy, and that may see some movement in terms of shifting of assets, and potentially Solana might end up winning on this backside for this. But we're definitely watching this very closely as the market continues to kind of get into this zone right now. I think in preparation for what would be and could be the final leg up on moving. And if you look at a lot of charts out there, if you believe in those, and it's not that I don't, I look at trends, macroeconomic trends, and of course data, and we look at sentiment and amplification more than anything, because it is the precursor to price action. Typically, the concern I have with sentiment and also with amplification in some cases is when we have any particular project holding high sentiment numbers for too long, even during dips. That's when I get a little bit of an unsettling feeling that we might either, one, be priced in on that project, and sentiment that's just like the new low, or we are getting way too much fluff in the market. And good investors always kind of use a little bit of your gut, a lot of data, a lot of TA, and then smart moves in being able to kind of adjust to that. So that's one thing to always be watching out for. Just as a reminder, if you guys haven't joined the Diamond Circle, by the way, you got to get into this, because we are going to be opening up something that's really cool. The Diamond Circle right now has one level, and the level is free membership. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to open that up to you guys. Obviously, you can, for those that have already joined, awesome. You obviously get access to our live stream giveaways when we do Diamond Circle giveaways. But the other thing is we're starting to drop. So we've got a whole ton of researchers and writers that are going to start dropping a lot more of our research into the Diamond Circle, so you'll be getting more updates. I promise you, we will not flood you with email. We're only going to send you, here's the latest email, or here's the latest videos we've done, and by the way, here's a couple of reports and/or some of our research that will be on specific tokens, and we'll embed that in there so you guys can have access to it. We are starting to look at rolling out some premium elements for the Diamond Circle that we haven't launched. We don't even know if we're going to charge for it at this point, but the idea is to get more of a club group level for Diamond Circle, so we can really start breaking down analysis on a much more frequent basis, and how I'm constantly updating on the Diamond Circle website and also over on PBN. But this is one of the things that we just launched, was the Crypto Power Index. You actually can go to the page now, and it kind of shows you a little bit about how it works, talks a little bit about what we've been doing in data science and understanding how basically the Power Index works, how we utilize sentiment and amplification to move into that. This was a tool we did and use on Axie Affinity, so it kind of just shows you the same thing you're looking at right now that we just did on Solana. And then a little bit more about how the analysis is done, and then we go into a little bit of how it works. I know that's a crazy drawing, but we pull in from a lot of different data sources, and then that gives us results back in the CPI in terms of measurements that we can then translate over to a chart that looks something like that right there that you're seeing on Axie. A lot of these kinds of analysis tools that we've been utilizing over the years is these are getting better and better. They're getting more accurate in terms of timing and price pinning, what I call price pinning, which is where we're pinning sentiment to price action. So that's essentially how it's done. And because of that, it reveals to us rankings. And that's one of the cool things that people have really liked here recently, is a little bit more of our rankings. So I want to jump into our top 20 Solana ecosystem by sentiment. This is November 2021. And you can kind of see the top dog in the hunt right there is Star Atlas, coming in at 73.93. Also Raydium right there, and that's 73.56. So we just showed you some stuff of what was happening. 72.16 on SolFarm, that's Tulip. And then you've got Solend coming in at number 4, 72.11. So we showed you those projects. Solanium is another one that's holding on, 71.21. And then you can kind of see Audius, which we've had some videos on Audius here before. In fact, we did a video on Audius very, very early. So if you don't know a lot about Audius, you should go check that video out, because it's a really good video. I think that One identifies what it's going to be doing in the entertainment space. This is a good project, one that I think is definitely going to be here long term. Then you've got Parsec, Ren, Saber, another big player in the Solana system. Of course, Serum, which is going to be a new DEX there, which we've talked about. Aurora, struggling a little bit, but still holding in the top 20. Mango Markets, I'm sure you guys have probably seen a little bit about what's happening over there. And then LIQ Protocol, Arweave, one of my favorite projects. I still think that is going to be one of the players in the altcoin market that's really going to jump. Jet Protocol, Injective, Bonafide, Samoid Coin, Civic, and coming in number 20 is Coin98. Now, there's a lot more projects that jump into this. Definitely, and I'll put these out on Twitter, and so you guys can see them and have them to keep if you want to, if you're really studying Solana on a long-term basis, because that is going to be absolutely insane. Let me see if I can get over here to the amplification numbers. All right, here we go. Amplification, different, a little bit of a different story. Star Atlas still holding number 1, but Tulip jumps to number 2 here, and that was interesting to me in where that's going. Raydium comes in, and then there's Audius, which was really kind of a middle of the pack on sentiment, but much better on amplification. Now remember, amplification is how we look at the network effect. How many people are talking about, influencers that can have a little bit of a play, how people are spreading information and giving information out to the market, which causes that price action to occur. So Audius coming in there, Solanium, and then Solend. Serum then jumped up also to 68.79, I think in the number looks like 7 spot. And then LIQ Protocol, Parsec, Arweave again right in the middle, Saber shuffling a little bit. Mango started falling out, and then even Band Protocol jumped into the top 20 when it came to the application or the amplification side of things. So not everything out here, because we're scoring about, I think, 100 projects right now. Some you're going to see in the amplification in the top 20, and then they might drop off on sentiment, and then vice versa. Some you might see on sentiment and less on amplification. Sometimes amplification on some of these projects is a little tricky, because if there's not a lot of data, it will give, in my opinion, will give some false numbers in the essence of there's just not a lot of data to harvest and look at. So amplification can get a little bit tricky. So you have to be careful about how you're reading those charts and understanding of how those really are kind of applying to price action in the space. That is basically the outline of the top 20 by sentiment and amplification. Just to go back in and just remind everybody, here's the sentiment numbers quickly. Star Atlas, Raydium, SolFarm, Solend, Solanium, and Audius. And then we'll pull over here to amplification. And you've got Star Atlas, SolFarm, Raydium, Audius, and Solanium. And then Solend coming in right there at number 6. So those are some good ones that you guys can kind of take a look at. If you want to get more information on the CPI and how that's going to be utilized in our tool set, just go to that page I just showed you. It's also on these slides, so when I drop it on Twitter, make sure and follow me at Paul Barron. That'll be the one way that I drop these out. Sometimes we'll drop it over on Paul Barron TV as well to get information out there and get to it. Let's get into some of the questions for today, because there are a few coming in. So Samdeep KO comes in, should be worried about the current Bitcoin dip. I think anytime the market moves 10% or more, Sandeep, yes, you should always be worried. The potential, though, I think of where, if you look at where both the money flow is going, where current sentiment is holding on Bitcoin, because that was the first thing we went to today was Bitcoin sentiment. And Bitcoin sentiment had dropped, and we are continuing to see a little bit of market dominance in terms of Bitcoin start to falter. But I feel like this is just a temporary opportunity for acquisition and definitely accumulation. So now, will it go below the 60? I think that's going to be the question, the big question. Will it? I shouldn't say will it go, because it hit 59, I think, last night. But the point being is that it's got an opportunity here to maybe slide into the 50s. Could be another accumulation period before we see a blow off the top. So I'm feeling very good about where Bitcoin is going. Bob Hayes, what's your largest Solana ecosystem holding? Simple, Star Atlas. It's a very easy win for me. Star Atlas I still like as one of the better projects. I'm also in Audius. I like that project. Very, very happy with that one. Serum I bought. That one was kind of a new project that we got into, but I still like it. Oscar Duarte, thanks for the super chat there, man. We appreciate it. And then here is a good one, Reggie Van Orshagen. When will ETH 2.0 be fully completed? Listen, I don't think the Solana guys want that to happen because this is going to be a dogfight once ETH 2.0 gets really rolled out. They're claiming, if you look at the protocols and some of the things they've done here recently in terms of their advancement in the code set to get to proof of stake, Ethereum is claiming early next year. So if we see that in Q1, that could be a very interesting situation, I think, for especially for Solana and also for other projects like Avalanche and others that are really kind of competing and vying for that second spot for a lot of these transaction things. So Chi saying Bitcoin under 60 now. Where is Bitcoin at now, right now? Does anybody got a number on it? If it's under the 60 mark, as I said, I think we'll see it move into the 50s. The question is, where does it land and nest? Now, there's still been people, and if you look at Plan B, if you believe stock to flow, yeah, so we're at 59 hovering. So again, it's dipping in there. I feel like this is still going to be the scenario. Again, like I said, sentiment has been a little bit soft, and we are going to do and give you guys an update on where that is this week. We may drop it in tomorrow on a live stream for you, so definitely go in there. All right, here's a good question from Rajesh. Is Sol going to flip ETH? This is a good possibility. I think ETH has been talked about flipping Bitcoin for some time. I'd be more inclined to think that Sol has an opportunity definitely to go into the top 3 or 4. And if that does happen, I think that's going to be a lot of opportunity for people. If you own Solana right now, that means some pretty big shakeout moves for you. All right, so let's go into My Creative Lounge. Hello, I'm Helen, a new member. What platform do you personally use to buy gaming coins and are not on popular platforms yet? All right, so Helen, that's a good question. We use, most of the time, it depends. Like Star Atlas, you're going to get through Raydium. And the way you're going to get to a Star Atlas is via a Phantom wallet. That's the Solana wallet. I know it gets complicated because there's so many wallets to get out there, but I would just say get the Phantom wallet, get the MetaMask wallet, and utilize those because that's going to be the place that you're going to be able to get the most trades out of, especially on the swapping dexes, because PancakeSwap is going to have access to a lot of projects. Additionally, you're going to be able to get into Uniswap if you're tolerant of the fees with Ethereum right now, depending on what your trade level is. A lot of people aren't moving on that currently just because of gas fees being so high. Another interesting kind of backdoor way that we buy coins is through a bot trading platform called Pionex. And not a lot of people know about this, but Pionex is a tool we use. It's good if you're interested in bot trading, grid trading, things of that nature. Great platform. I use it. I endorse it as a great product because I utilize it on a daily basis. That one has access to a lot of the Binance projects because BNB being so related. So if you're not comfortable with a swap, you might check to see if a token's available over on Pionex. Not too hard to get into. You do have to transfer Tether into into Pionex. So it's a little bit of a move like out of your Coinbase or your Voyager account or your Gemini account, whatever one you're using as your primary trading account. But that's another way to do it. So I would recommend PancakeSwap and then, of course, Raydium if you're trying to get into these Solana projects like a Star Atlas or something of that nature. Let's get into some more here. Let's say, should be worried. Yeah, we got that one in there. Solana uses Arweave for its data. So kinda Sol Ecocoin. All right, that's coming from Bob. I believe that's right, Bob, is that when you look at Arweave, they are the, what would I call them? Listen, there's going to be a certain number of people that are going to win in every ecosystem, and data storage, Arweave, is going to be a very big necessity in the metaverse. And also in a lot of these projects and blockchain projects that are evolving into other aspects of business, because there will be some real use case scenarios where data scenarios will be a big play, just like AWS is for most of Web 2.0. There's going to be an AWS for Web 3.0. Now, is that an Arweave or others like it? I mean, you can still look at Filecoin, same kind of scenario. A little different in the sense that Arweave being in the Solana ecosystem. So back to the point of strength in ecosystem, very, very important. All right, let's take a look here. Aaron, good top. I figured that a big drop across the board was a good time to get in a little. So this is a good time, as Aaron's talking about right there, is a big, big advantage for, I think, being able to get in on some of these projects. Like, for instance, Solana in the 220, even though my position is much better, but I felt like this was a good opportunity to go ahead and grab some more Solana, which I did. So that is something that if you are passionate about a particular project, maybe you should do that. Not investment advice, but definitely if you are passionate about a project and you want to get moving on something during a dip, buy red all day long. Buy red all day long. All right, this is a good one. Which DEX has fewer fees, Raydium or Orca? I think Raydium has less fees than Orca. So don't quote me, but I've tried Orca once, and Raydium is what I stuck with. So sometimes I forget these things, but it's usually the one that's one, better user interface, and two, speeds of transaction, and then of course 3 is the fees. Raydium I like. It's a very sexy product, and I like it. So definitely cool. Let's go here. Would you sell ETH2 for Sol? In a minute. In a minute. That's me. That's me. I would sell ETH2 for Sol. For sure, I'd get in slow. All right, Oscar, you're asking another question here. Do you see Theta as part of the metaverse? Do you, due to low performance, debating about dumping Theta and moving on to other projects? Appreciate your thoughts. Okay, Theta is, we had Theta on the show the other day of talking. It's still a top 20 altcoin. And because it has a big ecosystem of audience, and that's another factor. I think the guys are trying to tell me something here. Oh, okay, we're cool. Because man, I tell you, we've been seeing so much spam in the comments, so we're trying to get through that. Just to remember, guys, if you are in our live stream comments, we're not going to be in there communicating with you. We're going to try to respond to you in the live stream itself, but also in the after the live streams are live. If you're watching this after the show, we have a lot of impersonators, so just be very careful. We do not use Telegram to communicate to you, our audience. We do not use any of those WhatsApp numbers that they try to get you to bait you in thinking that we're commenting. They'll use our logo. They're tricky. So just be diligent in how you're managing and going around with this. So subs only next time on our comments is what we're going to do for our live stream. So I think that's going to be a big factor in helping to control the spam bots that come in on these live streams, because it's been, as you guys have seen, the channel has been growing like crazy, and I think it's attracting the wrong kind of audience. So we want to make sure and keep it clean for you, our subscribers, and also for you, our paid, our family, for the Diamond Circle, and that's kind of an important thing. So big deal. All right, which microcap alt can be the next Solana? AJ. We did a small, okay, so there's 2 videos I want you to watch. One is my portfolio video that we did on, first of all, let me answer the question. Gaming and NFTs, that's where you want to be. That's going to be in the microcap. Microcap being under 50 million, which goes back to using Tokenmetrics, because that is a tool to identify these microcaps quickly and then look for bullish indicators on them. And it is something that I continue to use. Let me see if I can do this for you on camera while we're doing this. Let's go to Tokenmetrics real quick so we can show the team all of this good stuff. So I'm looking for market caps, AJ. I'm going to do this for you, and we're going to go less than, and right here we're going to go 50 million, all right? And you'll apply that filter, and it's going to give you the market cap, if I'm staying long, yeah. So it's going to give you the market cap unless it's in the current ICO stage, which sometimes it won't have data reporting, but you'll see this right here. And what you're looking for are these bullish indicators right here. So this is kind of your shopping list. Don't just use Tokenmetrics. Utilize a whole slew of tools. But this will give you your bullish indicator, kind of tracking these down. And what I do is I go in, our team goes in, and we research all of these projects. Now I'll go in and look at volume And maybe in this kind of scenario, I'll look then greater than 1 million in this particular case. Maybe I want to go up a little bit. Let's go to 2 million and then grab it by there. So it'll sort out my low cap. It'll give me my low cap, but my higher volume low caps, which also help me get into projects that I want to take a look at. And you'll notice here that there's a ton of unknowns right here. Polka War we've invested in. And to get back to what my point was, is that we did 2 videos for you. And I would recommend jumping into both these videos. One was our risky portfolio that, I shouldn't say risky, it was less risk than our high risk portfolio. But we did a metaverse and gaming portfolio. You got to check out that video. Absolutely phenomenal tokens in there to watch. And then the high risk portfolio video, which was done just last week, I think on Friday. Check back in the stream there. That'll get you to that one because that's going to open up a lot of stuff. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for jumping in today. Don't forget, get into the Diamond Circle. Thanks for stopping in on the podcast over there. You want to hit me up in Twitter, it's @PaulBaron. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.